New Year's resolutions are the biggest scam, but they sound so good on paper. This year I will smash my grades. This year I will build a profitable side hustle. And this year I will go and stick to my gym routine. And honestly, come January the 1st, it seems to work. The gym, it is packed. Your motivation is sky high and you keep going regularly. But a few weeks later, you notice that the gym is not as crowded anymore. And your motivation, it also started to waver. But you manage to push through your workout. Now fast forward a little bit further, and you don't even know how many people are in the gym. Why not? Because you found yourself in a staring contest with your gym shoes, and they seem to be winning. You start negotiating with yourself. It's okay if you don't go today. You deserve a break. No, I don't. I need to keep my streak. Ah, don't you worry. Let's just recharge today and go twice as hard tomorrow. This goes on for a while and you decide not to go. But little did you know, you're probably not gonna go tomorrow either. And slowly your daily gym habit deteriorates and becomes an occasional event. And this kind of thing, it happens to so many people during New Year's. Like, it happens to me all the time. You set a New Year's resolution, you start out motivated, but for some reason it just won't stick. And that's the problem. We are scamming ourselves into trying to climb Mount Everest before we even went on our first hike. But why does that happen? Because at first it seems like New Year's resolutions are working, right? Because at the beginning, New Year's resolutions motivation is higher than Snoop Dogg. But for some reason, it falls down and we don't stick to it long enough to keep the ball rolling. Now I'm only 26 and my approach might not be the best one, but this is the approach that works for me to stick to my New Year's resolutions. But before we go deep into strategy, let's talk about why New Year's resolutions are destined to fail to begin with. The biggest problem with New Year's resolutions is that they are externally motivated. Just think about it. Everybody's hyping each other up. They're saying, oh, I'm gonna achieve this year, I'm gonna do this that year. And once we stop hyping each other up, this initial motivation fades. And we then have to rely on our willpower, which by itself is not a very sustainable method of motivation. You have to force yourself to do the things that you don't want to be doing. And that requires a lot of mental strength. But the problem is, you won't always have the mental strength to do so. Sure, for a few weeks, days, or whatever, you're fine, right? But you have weak moments in your life. I have weak moments in my life. Sometimes I don't want to be doing things. But if I am relying on my willpower to push myself through, then I won't be doing those things at some point because my willpower will just not be there. We as humans, we evolved to save our energy when we need it. And if we don't have to unnecessarily strain ourselves, we tend not to do that. Now, if the problem is that we are burning out and we have to force ourselves into doing the things, the question is then, how can we fix that? How can we do the things without forcing ourselves? Now, I'm not sure about the research, but this is what worked for me. Let's talk about the gym. I might not look like it, but I have been going to the gym on and off since I was 14 years old. I know, this body is not a 12-year lifting body. After 12 years of lifting, your physique should look a bit more impressive. But that's what I have been doing. I just never went consistently over the 14 years. But only in the last 1 or 2 years, I was going consistently to the gym and actually giving a shit about my diet. And the question is then, of course, what the hell changed? One, I got older, obviously. But more importantly, as I was getting older, my identity changed. The idea of who I am and who I want to be in this world changed. I used to be the type of person that needed to force themselves to go to the gym. I needed to fucking get the whip out and spank myself to the gym. But now I'm not that kind of person anymore. Now I'm that kind of person that will feel off if I have a day where I don't work out. When you see yourself as a person that exercises, you find it very, very uncomforting and weird if you don't exercise. You will not always feel like working out. It's just like with brushing your teeth. You don't want to brush your teeth all the time. But it's so ingrained in your psyche and who you are that you just wake up and you do it anyway. Like nobody's gonna be like, oh, I don't want to brush my teeth today, I'm just gonna skip it. No. It's like, oh, I don't want to brush my teeth today. Fuck it, I'm just gonna brush my teeth regardless. Because you keep your teeth clean every day. That's part of who you are. You are somebody who cares about the hygiene of the teeth. And this is exactly the problem with the New Year's resolutions. Because as mentioned before, they are just short-term motivation. But once the motivation burns out and you have to force yourself, you didn't actually change your identity. Now, the short-term motivation, that doesn't last. But an identity change, now this shit lasts forever. So now the question is, how do you change your identity exactly? To be honest, that just happens through a lot of effort. No shortcuts, nothing like that. Changing your identity is not a straight path. No. It has a lot of ups and downs and turns, left turns, right turns. It goes all over the place. However, to change your identity, you have to believe that you're a person and that can change the identity. But you are not stupid. Of course not. You know exactly that if you would just think about being a different person, you would not just suddenly change your behavior. That's not how it works. No, to actually change your identity, you have to be able to believe that you can change your identity and then act relentlessly in accordance to your new identity. Let's say you want to actually stick to a gym routine. You have to give yourself proof that you always go to the gym. And how would you do that? By always going to the gym. Your mind, it needs proof in the real world. Proof that you are the type of person that you tell yourself that you are. So in a nutshell, to change your identity, you have to do the habit that your new identity identifies with all the time until it just becomes part of who you are. Just do it. That's literally all you need to do. However, just doing it is a little bit of a vague kind of piece of advice. So let's break it down to make it actually achievable. To achieve this identity shift, you have to make it very, very easy for you to perform the habit that you want to have. And the way of making something easier to perform is by breaking down barriers. For example, let's suppose that you want to look like Ronnie Coleman. You want to be this big, muscly beast. Well, you would not begin by working out like Ronnie Coleman does. Because most likely, if you try to work out like him, you wouldn't be able to lift anything and you would injure yourself. Not good. The goal at first is to make it easy to sustain a gym habit. Right, so don't start by going 3 hours a day to the gym, but instead set yourself the goal to just go to the gym every day. Not for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. No, just to show up at the gym for, let's say, 5 minutes. Just put your shoes on, get your gym bag, walk to the gym or drive to the gym and just enter the gym. That's it. That's your habit. And if it sounds stupidly simple, well, that's because it is stupidly simple to do once. But doing that every day, that actually is not that easy. And the reason why we want to be doing it so simple is because if you set yourself up to doing 1 hour every day, you get a very easy excuse to not go at some point. But if you tell yourself that all you need to do is to show up, but not even work out, you will be able to go to the gym even if you have other excuses that might be stopping you. But any time that I went to the gym, even if I told myself I'm only gonna go for 5 minutes, I usually always got a workout in. Sometimes it's only for 20-30 minutes, but I got it in. So remember to make it just very easy. You can even make it easier by removing more barriers. For example, you can choose a gym that's closer to your home. Or you could prepare your gym clothing the day before, the night before. You could just add little things to your daily routine, to your life, to make these habits easier to perform. And it only takes 2 minutes to prepare your gym clothing. But honestly, in the next day, when the gym bag is ready for you, waiting, it's very hard to say no to it. Now, this example of making it easy, it was for the gym, right? But it honestly applies to anything that you want to do in your life. But let's recap for a second. New Year's resolutions are the biggest scam because they motivate you, but will eventually burn you out. The actual goal should not be to chase motivation, but rather to change the perception of who you are, to change the identity that you associate with. And you do that by giving your mind proof that you are that type of person, that new type of person that acts in a certain way. You give your mind the proof by doing the habit relentlessly. And to perform the habit relentlessly, you make it extremely easy to perform. That is basically everything that is to it. And look, I want to talk about something important now. We don't really have much control in our limited lives, but we do have some. And to exercise that limited control that you have in your life means to control yourself, but not as a slave, but more like as a friend. Therefore, what you need to be doing to really make sure that you can change your identity is to monitor what the hell you're even doing. There was an interesting study being done. Basically, in this study, people were asked how much they thought they were eating on a daily basis, and the scientists, they tracked it. Now, what they figured out is that the people on average vastly underestimated how many calories they were actually consuming. I don't know the exact numbers, but I think it was like 20%. So let's say you would eat 2000 calories a day, but you would think that you only ate like 1600. That's a huge difference. That's like half a kilogram of fat per week difference. But this basically means that if you want to improve your metrics in your life, you have to be able to know what the metrics are. You do this by writing down what you have done. Like if you want to become a person that goes to the gym all the time, you should probably track when you went to the gym, how long you went to the gym for, and what type of exercises you did. Furthermore, this applies to your whole life in general, not just to the gym. For example, one big metric as well in your life is going to be money. But many people, they don't know where their money is going or how much is even coming in. But if you want to be wealthy, if you want to have money to spend, you have to actually be tracking your income. You have to be tracking your expenses and see where the bucket is leaking, where the money is coming in, and calculate how much you can spend per month with the income that you have. Because did you know it's mathematically impossible to be poor if you never spend all the money that you have. Earn more than you spend and you can't have no money. Mathematically impossible. Now, is it easy? Not always, no. But ultimately, just track your metrics. If you track your metrics, you can improve them as well. There's this beautiful scene in Alice in Wonderland, and I think it was a cat. I think it was the cat that asked Alice.
And where? You want to get to?
Oh, it really doesn't matter. As long as I can...
Then it really doesn't matter which way you go.
So have a target, have a goal, and exercise some control this year. Make it your goal in 2026 to not burn out with your New Year's resolution, but instead make it an identity change. Shift it and become a new person. What do you think? I would love to know your opinion. Matter of fact is, debate me. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why this doesn't work. I would love to know what you think. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you down in the comments.